Hi, my name is Tanith Lee, otherwise known as Mrs. Menopause. So the title of my free ebook you can download from my website is called The 7 Secrets to a Happy Menopause. The thing is, they're not really secrets, they're kind of the 7 things that I think will have the biggest impact on having a happier, healthier and more energetic and feeling great menopause. So these are the 7 secrets that are in the book: stress, weight management, nutrition, sleep, exercise, education and mindset. This is not a definitive list at all, but these are the things that I've experienced myself and with clients that get the biggest and the best results. So the one we're going to talk about today is stress. And I'm sure you can identify with this picture of this woman. You know, we understand that kind of feeling, that stress feeling, that, you know, you're stuck in a traffic jam, or maybe a train's been delayed and you get that stressed out feeling, you get that knot in your stomach, your heart rate goes up, all those feelings of stress. That's kind of like acute stress, which is normal. We have that in day-to-day lives. And so, you know, that's kind of normal living, especially in the way we live at the moment. But what causes problems to health in general is this chronic state of stress that we can live in. And this is particularly important to address as us women go into our third age, or we get into the peri-menopause years, or even post-menopause, because the way our body works and the way it works changes as we get older, and changes in our hormones mean that our body reacts differently under times of stress, and this can have a very big impact on the typical symptoms of menopause. You know, keeping in mind that not every woman has the same experience of menopause, and not every woman has a bad experience of menopause. Not that you would believe that in reading some of the media. It can be actually a really positive thing. So, let's just talk about stress, what it can be like. Stress can come from all different parts of your life. It can come from having, you know, a bad diet. That can cause a stress in the body. It can come from your thinking. If you've got a negative mindset, it can come from your environment. It can come from people, from work. It can come, you know, our own personal way of dealing with stress is different to the next person. The reason I'm so passionate talking about stress and the menopause is I'm 2 years since my last period at the age of 42 now. And the reason I'm really passionate about this is because last year, about this time last year actually, I went through a really, I don't know if it was a breakdown, it was certainly adrenal fatigue, and that was caused by just being under a huge amount of stress. I'd taken on way too much work. You know, and I was trying to be super mum, looking after the kids, because I've got 2 teenage kids. I was trying to do all these things, and I've got other commitments, and it just came on top. And it was the worst experience ever. It really, really affected me. You know, not only did I gain weight, you know, it just made me depressed. I was apathetic. I was getting hot flushes back again. I wasn't sleeping properly. All these symptoms and signs that are associated with perimenopause, they seem to be much more aware, much more aware of them, much heightened response to them. So that's why I'm particularly passionate about stress. So let's move on. So these are some of the symptoms of stress, and by certainly this is not a complete list, but you know, it's worth just having a quick look through this list. You know, I don't know if you're looking through this. I mean, I'm looking through this, and sometimes I'm mentally going over my head doing a bit of a checklist. But can you see how some of these symptoms of stress are very similar, if not the same, as symptoms of the perimenopause, the fluctuation, changes in your hormones as we lead up towards our last period? Very, very similar. And what we've got to keep in mind is with our body and our hormones and the way the body works, we can't just kind of partition off one part of our body apart, how it works. You know, all these things have a little dance together, all these hormones, all the different parts of the endocrine system. You know, the body plays this delicate dance, and one part isn't working so good, it really affects other parts of the system. So you can see here all these symptoms. Sounds rubbish, doesn't it? I know that's kind of what I suffered with last year when I went through that real bad dip. You know, all this stuff come up for me. And the reason I'm talking about this, what happens is we have heightened levels of cortisol. And the last thing we need as we're getting older is high levels of cortisol all the time, flooding our system all the time. And we're going to talk a little bit more about why that is. So there's something called the Pregnenolone Steal. And why is this important? Let me just really explain what happens. Pregnenolone is like the mother hormone. From pregnenolone, that's when all our other hormones are created. Now usually, pre-menopause, progesterone is derived from the ovaries, and that's where it's usually made. But when we go into perimenopause, where our ovaries aren't producing progesterone, it's actually produced in much smaller quantities in our adrenal glands. And this is why adrenal health is vital for our well-being as we go into menopause. Now the thing is, in times of stress, cortisol is actually made in the adrenal glands from progesterone. So if you think about how this is working, if you're in a heightened state of stress and you're feeling under pressure and you've got a boss that's on your back all the time, the kids are playing up and you're not having time to exercise and look after your food, you've got that continuous stress and your body is pumping out cortisol. It's making that cortisol from your precious little bit of progesterone that your adrenal glands is producing. So what happens is you start, that in itself is causing an imbalance, even more of an imbalance of your female hormones. And I'll show you in a minute what the signs of a lower progesterone or a progesterone imbalance are. But we really need this progesterone. We need it to help with our blood sugar levels, with our thyroid function. It helps use fat for energy, and it's also beneficial as an anti-inflammatory. So super, super important. So let's have a quick look at what low progesterone can do. So again, you're going to see some of these are very similar to the symptoms of stress and perimenopause. It all starts to fit into place. And this low progesterone, not only is your body producing less progesterone, you're using up even more of it to make cortisol when you're under times of stress. So in my opinion, before we even really look at food or exercise, stress management, which all sounds a bit dry and boring, is the key to start to make ourselves feel better. Because when we are less stressed and we feel like we've got a bit more of a handle on life, then we're going to be much more receptive to want to change what we're eating and how we're moving. Because when I was going through my stressful period last year, I couldn't even think about eating healthy. I couldn't even think about exercise. It just seemed like that one thing that I just couldn't even tolerate, even considering it. And which, you know, this is a big part, it still is a big part of my life, health and fitness, but then just couldn't even think about it. So it just goes to show you how, you know, how much it really does affect you and how important it is to reduce stress. So this is the nice bit now. So ways of reducing stress. Now looking at this list may stress you out a bit. Hopefully not. So there's lots of different ways to reduce stress. We're looking at ways of bringing down those cortisol levels. The quickest way for you to do it is just to learn how to breathe. We forget how to breathe, and just by taking a moment or two and taking some deep breaths will instantly bring down your stress levels, and with that those stress hormones. So very easy way. But look at all these other lovely things you could do, and I'm sure you could add to this list as well. So it's worth just thinking about, is there something you could do daily just to start giving you that bit of space, that bit of relaxation, a bit of quiet time, and just try something, even if it's very small. It might be just literally practicing breathing for a minute or two a day, and just see what impact that makes, see what difference that makes to how you feel. And I'm sure if that makes a difference, you'll just want to naturally just do a little bit more. So going back to this high cortisol levels, we're going to think, cortisol governs our hunger, our cravings, digestion, even blood pressure. High cortisol levels could be affecting your sleep. So if you get tired but wired, so in the evening you get that second burst of energy and you feel like you could do loads of housework or do loads of work in the evening, that's a sure sign that your cortisol levels are out of whack. Cortisol levels should be going down in the afternoon, evening, getting ready for sleep. So high cortisol could be waking you up in the early hours, at 3-4 o'clock time you're waking up. Could be because your cortisol levels are out of whack. So can you see, hopefully you can see how much of an impact high cortisol and stress levels will have on you. Also, cortisol depletes some of the feel-good neurotransmitters in your brain, serotonin and dopamine, those kind of things. So the very things that we want to keep hold of to keep our mood lifted, actually cortisol can actually rob your body of that. So hopefully I'm selling to you now how important it is to look after your stress levels. Other things you could do as well is, I've said there about sleep, it's really good to try and get to bed, at a reasonable hour, thinking 10:30. Some people, like me, I'm always in bed by 10:30 unless I'm out. Some people I know stay up to 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And if that's the case, it's just worth seeing if you can slowly start to bring that time back around. And I promise you will feel better. How do you know if your cortisol levels are out of whack? So if you want a true snapshot of what's going on with your adrenal glands and your cortisol level, I would highly recommend getting a saliva test done. And it is exactly what it says. You get a tube, you get some tubes, and you literally have to spit your saliva into it at certain times. You send it away to the lab, it's tested, you get your results back, and it will show you what's going on with your cortisol levels. So that would be a really good one to do. At least you've got some kind of base point then. So hopefully I've just explained the importance of stress relief, stress reduction in your life, and how it can affect your menopausal symptoms. I think, taking time for ourselves, and it's kind of like showing ourselves a bit of self-love. And I've talked about this before. It's about being positively selfish. So you're looking after yourself, showing yourself how much you love yourself, and by doing all these lovely ways of reducing your stress. So if you're doing stuff already, great, keep doing it. Do more of it, that's what I say. Do stuff you love. If you don't do anything, just start with something super, super small. Take your time, just do it consistently. I guarantee you'll feel great. So that's me for now. Talking about stress. Any more information? www.mrsmenopause.co.uk. See you there. Thanks.